WBUR Podcast, Boston.
This is Up Next. I'm Deborah Becker. We want to note here that our next conversation discusses violence. We're talking about postpartum psychosis, which is now the focus of the Lindsay Clancy murder trial. The Duxbury mother is charged with killing her 3 children, and her defense attorney doesn't dispute that. He argues she should not be held criminally responsible because she was in a state of postpartum psychosis. Jessie Colbert, who works for a mental health advocacy group, has been following the trial, and she's lobbying to change the way that Massachusetts' criminal legal system treats new moms who are charged with crimes. I spoke with Colbert yesterday about the legislation she's working on.
There are a couple of pieces of the legislation. The first part says that if there is a crime committed and the individual is within 12 months of giving birth, that there would be a professional assessment of whether a perinatal mental health condition was present. And if it was determined that it was, that person would receive treatment in our mental health care system rather than the case proceeding in the criminal justice system. Then there are other provisions in the bill that say that, again, if this illness were present, that it would be considered a mitigating factor in sentencing. In other words, it would be a lesser sentence. And also, if you have already been convicted of a crime and you feel this illness was present but wasn't accounted for, you can petition for resentencing for a new sentence.
So, Jessie, if this bill was already law, how would Lindsay Clancy's case be handled? Would it be something different?
Absolutely it would. If our law had been on the books and an assessment was made and certainly this illness was present, the case would not have gone to trial and she would just be receiving treatment. Also, we would be avoiding this debate about whether a real mental illness is present and whether there is criminal responsibility. Postpartum psychosis is an illness that is defined by a break with reality. It is defined by many of the symptoms that we're hearing about now, and the individual is not capable of criminal intent because of that break with reality.
What about folks who say, in a really horrific case like this, where 3 children have been killed, how do you ensure that there's accountability for such a horrific crime?
I certainly understand that. But I think our goal is for this never to happen again. And I think those on the other side share that goal. And the best way to prevent this is by better education, better treatment, knowing the warning signs, knowing how to treat this as a medical emergency and get that person to help as soon as possible. This is an illness that absolutely blindsides families. Nobody wants this to happen. So to think that a harsher penalty is sending some kind of message that would stop this from happening, that's just not what's going to be preventative. And I think that the more that we demonize this person and this illness, the less likely moms and birthing people are going to feel comfortable speaking up, and it's going to be further in the shadows.
Mm-hmm. You've been in the courtroom most days of the trial so far. It's supposed to last 6 to 8 weeks. Do you expect to spend most of your time there?
I've been there periodically along with some other advocates. It is pretty painful to be there. I think there is this idealized version of motherhood that we all feel some pressure to live up to, and there is so much shame around needing help, especially around mental health concerns, because that's saying that, I'm not blissfully happy in this role, and to see that on display and so demonized. This is somebody that, desperately needed help, tried really hard to get help, didn't get it, and was very, very ill.
Jessie Colbert is coordinator for the Massachusetts Mind the Gap Coalition. That's a statewide mental health advocacy group.